Evansville 911.
I need an ambulance.
What's the address?
I need no police.
What's going on there?
My husband just got shot.
To see an Evansville firefighter gunned down in front of his own home is something that we weren't really prepared for.
Now I hear a bunch of popping. I don't even know how many. I did not see.
Is this your husband?
Yes.
Yeah, his name is Robbie Doerr. He's a firefighter.
For nearly 3 decades, Robbie Doerr dedicated his life to serving his community as a firefighter in Evansville, Indiana. Known for his unwavering commitment, he worked tirelessly, often taking on extra shifts and second jobs to provide for his family.
Robbie, call that 2 men. Robbie, you got anything?
Connect electrodes.
Just flush it. Robbie, he's done, dude. Damn it!
Oh, God, no. Oh.
Damn it!
His colleagues described him as reliable, kind-hearted, and passionate about his work. Beyond his career, Robbie was a devoted husband, a loving father, and a proud grandfather.
Life sucks without him. Sorry, I'm trying not to cry. That was my best friend, and now he's never going to meet his grandson.
His daughter, Lindsay Griffin, recalled growing up with a father who always put others before himself. Whether he was rushing into burning buildings or lending a helping hand to neighbors, Robbie embodied the qualities of a true public servant. Despite his bravery in the face of danger, Robbie could never have imagined that his greatest threat would come from within his own home. On February 26, 2019, Robbie had taken a half shift at the fire department, covering for a colleague. His wife, Elizabeth Becky Doerr, was at home preparing pork chops for dinner, awaiting his return. The evening seemed entirely ordinary in their quiet Evansville neighborhood. At approximately 7 p.m., Robbie arrived home, driving his white truck into the driveway. As he gathered his belongings, his thermos, lunch pail, and work gear, he walked toward the house. Just as he neared the front door, multiple gunshots rang out. He was struck several times from behind in a cold and calculated attack. Inside the house, Becky frantically dialed 911, her voice filled with panic as she pleaded for an ambulance.
I need an ambulance. My husband just got shot.
You said your husband just got shot?
Yes.
Stay on the line. I'll connect you to the ambulance service, okay?
I got him on the phone. Rob. I don't know. I just heard a bunch of popping. Please get somebody here. Rob. Oh my God.
Ma'am, I need you to listen to me, okay? The ambulance has been sent. Tell me what happened.
I don't know. I saw his truck pull in. I saw his headlights.
Okay, what kind of vehicle was it?
Ma'am, all I saw was my husband's headlights pull into the driveway, and then I heard a bunch of popping. My husband's 61 years old. His name is... Oh my God, please hurry.
Her statement immediately raised suspicions, as the kitchen window directly overlooked the driveway. It was difficult to believe that she could have heard the shots so clearly, but failed to see anything outside. When police arrived, they found Robbie lying in his driveway, struggling to breathe. Despite their efforts, he succumbed to his injuries before paramedics could transport him to the hospital. The attack shocked even the most seasoned officers. The crime scene itself raised immediate questions. No spent shell casings were found, which led investigators to believe that the shooter had used a revolver, a type of firearm that retains its ammunition instead of ejecting it.
We are at the 2700 block of Oakley Street. Here's what police tell us happened tonight. Police say that just after 7 o'clock tonight, they had several calls come in reporting shots fired. One of those callers said that they saw a man down on the ground. We're told the victim was shot and died here at the scene. Police say they do know who the victim is, but they are not releasing his name just yet. Right now, police are out talking to neighbors, trying to gather any information they can about a possible suspect. But right now they tell me they have no information about a suspect or any vehicle description.
Robbie had been shot multiple times from behind, suggesting that the killer had been lying in wait. This was not a random act of violence. It was a premeditated execution. Additionally, there were no signs of robbery or forced entry. Nothing had been stolen from Robbie's vehicle or his home, ruling out the possibility of a burglary gone wrong.
It's my dad. I need to get down there.
I understand. You're not going through this crime scene.
Okay, well then get my mother down here. Her name is Elizabeth Doerr.
Still, everything's being investigated.
Is he alive? No, he's not.
Oh my God.
Neighbors did not report seeing any unfamiliar vehicles or suspicious individuals in the area. The absence of physical evidence or witnesses indicated that the killer had planned the attack carefully and knew how to cover their tracks. But the most alarming detail came from Becky's own actions in the hours following the murder. Less than 12 hours after Robbie's death, Becky made a startling move. She visited the Evansville Fire Department to inquire about her husband's pension and death benefits. According to department records, as Robbie's widow, she was entitled to 75% of his pension for life and an additional $112,000 lump sum payout. Her eagerness to claim the money so soon after his death stunned Robbie's friends and colleagues. They were still in shock and mourning his loss, yet Becky was already asking about financial matters. This immediately raised suspicions, as her priorities seemed misplaced. Investigators took note of Becky's behavior and began looking into her personal life, searching for any possible motives that could connect her to the crime. That's when they made a shocking discovery: a deleted phone call made just minutes before Robbie was murdered. As part of the investigation, detectives obtained Becky's phone records from Sprint. They found that at 6:51 p.m., Becky had received a 4-minute call from a man named Larry Richmond Sr. He was a 46-year-old convicted murderer who had previously served a 45-year prison sentence for the 1996 killing of 70-year-old James Everett Montgomery. He had been released less than a year before the Robbie's murder. Even more disturbingly, Larry was engaged to Becky's sister, Amanda. Becky had not only been in regular contact with this violent ex-convict, but she had also deleted multiple calls between them. Over the previous 2 months, she had deleted at least 15 phone calls from Larry's number. The evidence suggested she was trying to hide something.
Well, Larry, while we've got everybody, it's not just you down here. Obviously, we're looking into the Robbie Doerr situation. He was gunned down in his driveway.
What's that got to do with me?
Well, it has to do with everybody in the family. We're just trying to get everybody in here to see if there's just anything that can help us with this investigation. Do you wish to talk to me without a lawyer present?
I have no problem answering any of your questions. I will cooperate fully.
Okay.
But due to my past, I have been incarcerated.
Sure.
I'm on probation. I don't need any problems.
Sure. No, I understand.
So if I'm not under arrest, please get a hold of him. I will come back down here and fully cooperate. No problems at all.
All we're trying to do is find out if you guys know anything that could help us find his killer.
I don't know nothing. We go out with him. We go out, we drink. Outside of that there, I don't know nothing.
As investigators continued their search for answers, they discovered a major breakthrough. The murder weapon had been stolen 6 months earlier from a local pawn shop. The stolen firearm was a Taurus Judge revolver, a powerful gun capable of firing both .45 caliber bullets and shotgun shells. Detectives traced the stolen gun to Larry Richmond Jr., Larry Sr.'s son. At the time of the theft, Larry Jr. had been an employee at the River City pawn shop, where the gun was stolen. When questioned, he quickly confessed, admitting that he had stolen the revolver and given it to his father just 2 days before Robbie's murder. The revelation confirmed that Larry Sr. was in possession of the likely murder weapon at the time of the killing. Combined with the deleted phone call and Becky's questionable actions, police now had strong evidence pointing toward a conspiracy. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered even more damning evidence against Becky. A handwritten note was found at Robbie's funeral, signed Larry, with the words, "We need to talk." The note suggested that Becky and Larry were still communicating even after Robbie's death.
Can you read that out loud to the jury?
We need to talk. There's a phone number, and it says Larry.
Can you read the phone number?
812-589-5238. Larry.
This note is exactly how you remember it the night that you found it.
Correct.
Additionally, a letter written by Robbie before his death accused Becky of being unfaithful. Though there was no direct evidence proving she had a romantic relationship with Larry Sr., Becky's own son, Nathaniel, testified that she was obsessed with Robbie's pension and had talked about it daily.
It was a conversation several times. It was almost, we had a conversation about it daily, and I got frustrated several times, and I was like, Mom, there are procedures we have to go through to get to that point.
Surveillance data placed Larry Sr. near Robbie's house before and after the shooting. Cell phone location data showed that Larry Sr. had powered off his phone at 6:52 p.m., just after the call with Becky, and turned it back on at 7:14 p.m., after Robbie had been shot. The overwhelming evidence indicated that Becky and Larry Sr. had conspired to kill Robbie for financial gain. After years of painstaking investigation, the case against Elizabeth "Becky" Doerr finally went to trial in the spring of 2024. The courtroom was packed with Robbie Doerr's family, his fellow firefighters, and members of the Evansville community, all seeking justice for the man they had lost.
Robbie Doerr was gunned down in his own driveway by Larry Richmond Sr. I didn't intend for any of this to happen. This is what the defendant told detectives who were questioning her that night about the death of her husband. When Robbie Doerr arrived at his home after work, he was ambushed by Larry Richmond, who lied in wait just feet from where Robbie Doerr pulled into his driveway. This puts him close to a window the defendant says she was standing near making a pork chop dinner. Just 15 minutes before Robbie Doerr was ambushed and killed, the defendant spoke with Larry Richmond Sr. on the phone for 4 minutes and 18 seconds. As soon as the defendant was finished talking to Larry Richmond Sr., she deleted that phone call.
The prosecution argued that Becky had carefully orchestrated her husband's murder with Larry Richmond Sr., motivated by financial greed and a possible romantic relationship. They painted a picture of a woman who had grown tired of her husband, saw his pension and life insurance benefits as a way out, and conspired with a dangerous ex-convict to eliminate him. The state introduced damning evidence to support their case. Prosecutors revealed that Becky had deleted numerous phone calls with Larry Sr. in the months leading up to the murder, including the crucial 4-minute call made just 10 minutes before Robbie was shot. They also presented surveillance data and phone records that placed Larry Sr. near Robbie's house at the time of the murder. Furthermore, ballistics experts testified that the stolen Taurus Judge revolver, which had been taken from a local pawn shop by Larry Jr., was the likely murder weapon. Perhaps the most chilling piece of evidence was Becky's own words. Prosecutors played back the 911 call she made on the night of the murder, highlighting inconsistencies in her statements. They also pointed to her cold and calculated actions in the hours after Robbie's death, her immediate inquiry about his pension less than 12 hours after the killing. Testimony from Becky's own son, Nathaniel, was particularly damning. He told the jury that his mother was fixated on Robbie's pension, bringing it up daily, even on the night of the murder. His words painted a picture of a woman who was more concerned about financial gain than grieving her husband's death. The defense attempted to argue that there was no direct evidence linking Becky to the crime. They claimed that while Becky may have associated with Larry Richmond Sr., there was no proof she had ordered Robbie's murder.
There will be no evidence that Becky Doerr had any conversation with anyone about killing anyone. That doesn't exist. That is a speculative, suppositional, grandiose suggestion to support a charge that should have never been filed. You will hear no evidence of Becky Doerr talking about getting a gun. You'll hear no evidence about a conversation with anyone that's plotting her husband's death. That evidence does not exist.
Her lawyers pointed out that there were no recorded conversations discussing a murder plot, no texts, no written orders, just circumstantial evidence.
Strong about the case, but I have doubts. I mean, I can't be on the phone conversation with him that night. The deleted phone.
You have. Let's sort of get this out in the open.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a phone conversation that you asked Becky about at some point, correct?
Correct.
And you allege it's with Larry Richmond Sr., right?
It is, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You have no idea what they talk about, do you?
No.
And you know who initiated that call, don't you?
He did.
Who?
Larry Richmond Sr.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in your investigation, you don't have any evidence that Becky Doerr ever initiated a phone conversation of any kind with Larry Richmond Sr., correct?
Correct.
In fact, this idea that is floated that these two were lovers You don't have any communication between the two of them that would suggest that, do you?
Correct.
So if there's been a representation that there's going to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Becky Doerr and Larry Richmond Sr. were lovers, that evidence doesn't exist, does it?
Correct. But that's where, may I speak? Yes. May I speak, sir? Okay, thank you. When we talked about doubt, that's what, because we can't get content from a phone conversation. Right. So I have to take her. Now, looking at everything that has come in, I don't believe her answer. That's where I felt strong. I feel strong about the case, but my doubt is I can't listen to their phone conversation. People can delete text messages between the two.
Right.
And we can't prove but they can discard them before we collect the phone. That happens all the time.
They suggested that Larry Sr. may have acted alone, possibly out of an obsession with Becky, and that her only crime was being unlucky enough to have interacted with the wrong person. However, the prosecution countered this argument powerfully. They pointed out that Becky had not only deleted her phone call with Larry Sr. before the murder, but had been in regular communication with him for months. They emphasized that a random act of violence by Larry made no sense. He had nothing to gain from Robbie's death, while Becky stood to inherit a lifetime of pension payments and a six-figure payout. The idea that Larry Sr. had killed Robbie without Becky's involvement or knowledge was implausible. After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Becky Doerr was found guilty on all charges, murder and conspiracy to commit murder. A gasp rippled through the courtroom as the verdict was read aloud. Some of Robbie's fellow firefighters wept openly, while others embraced one another in relief and grief. Robbie's daughter, Lindsay Griffin, sat in silent anguish, tears streaming down her face as she finally saw justice delivered for her father. Following her conviction, Becky Doerr faced sentencing in June 2024. The prosecution pushed for the maximum penalty, arguing that her crime was particularly heinous because it involved deception, betrayal, and premeditation. They urged the court to consider the pain and suffering Robbie endured, the impact on his family, and the loss to the Evansville community, where Robbie had selflessly served for nearly 3 decades. In a final attempt to save herself, Becky took the opportunity to address the court, but instead of expressing remorse, she proclaimed her innocence once more.
Regardless what the verdict says, I am innocent of these crimes. I never asked anyone to harm or murder my husband. My world came crashing down on the night of February 26, 2019. I was in shock, devastated, lost, and I've never really been the same since.
She spoke at length about how she had never asked anyone to harm her husband and claimed she was being falsely accused. Her words fell on unsympathetic ears. The prosecution, the jury, and even her own family members had heard enough. When it was his turn to speak, Nathaniel, Becky's son, did not offer support to his mother. Instead, he condemned her actions, stating that she had brought shame and pain to their family and that she had betrayed the very man who had given her everything.
Comes together when you need them. Finally, justice has been served. Dad can finally rest. I'm sorry, but he can finally sleep and finally be put to rest.
His words left an emotional impact on the courtroom, reinforcing the depth of Becky's deception and selfishness. The judge, after reviewing all the evidence and listening to the statements, delivered a severe sentence. Becky Doerr was sentenced to 90 years in prison, 60 years for murder and 30 years for conspiracy to commit murder, to be served consecutively. The severity of the sentence ensured that Becky, now 52 years old, would likely spend the rest of her life behind bars.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of count 1 as charged in the information signed and dated this date. Verdict, count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of count 2 as charged in the information signed and dated this date. Does either side wish to have the verdict or the jury polled? State? No. Defense?
I do not.
Becky showed no visible reaction, though her lawyers vowed to appeal the conviction. Meanwhile, the family of Robbie Doerr embraced one another, feeling a bittersweet sense of closure. While nothing could bring Robbie back, the fact that justice had been served offered some measure of peace. Robbie Doerr spent his entire life dedicated to protecting and serving others, only to be betrayed by the person he trusted most, his wife. The thought of him working long shifts to provide for Becky, only for her to plot his murder, was heartbreaking for those who knew him. His fellow firefighters, who considered him a brother, were devastated by the horrific way his life was taken. The betrayal reached beyond Robbie's family and workplace. It shocked the entire Evansville community. A man who had spent decades running into burning buildings, saving lives, and working tirelessly to help others, had been gunned down in cold blood at the hands of someone who should have loved him most. His murder was not a crime of passion, nor a random act of violence. It was a cold, calculated, and premeditated execution, carried out for money. In the aftermath of Becky's conviction, Robbie's daughter, Lindsay, spoke publicly. She shared how her father had been her role model, her hero, and how the pain of his loss could never fully heal. However, she also acknowledged that, at last, her father could rest in peace, knowing that justice had been served. While Becky sat in a prison cell, and Larry Richmond Sr. awaited his own trial in August 2024, Robbie's family tried to rebuild their lives without him. His legacy, however, lives on in the memories of those he touched. His fellow firefighters continue to honor him. His family remembers his warmth and love, and his community mourns the loss of a true hero. In the end, the murder of Robbie Doerr was not just a crime, it was a devastating betrayal that shattered lives and left an entire community reeling. Though justice has been served, those who loved Robbie know that no prison sentence can ever replace the man they lost. As his daughter put it so simply, Dad can finally rest.
His death rocked this community as he had just finished his shift serving the citizens of Evansville as a firefighter, truly one of Evansville's bravest. Today is the first step in seeing some type of justice for Robbie. A short while ago, Larry Richmond Sr. and Elizabeth Fox-Doerr were charged with the murder of Robbie. For over 3 years, EPD investigators, along with the FBI, the Vanderburgh County Prosecutor's Office, and the Vanderburgh County Cyber Crimes Task Force, have been working tirelessly to get to where we are today. We are relieved that the long wait is over and the individuals involved in this murder are being brought to justice for not only Robbie's murder, but the pain they have caused his family, his friends, and our department.